The observation deck of Station Kepler 442 hummed with the low thrum of life support systems, but Lena Ward barely noticed anymore. After 6 months as the station's xenobiological caretaker, the mechanical heartbeat of humanity's furthest outpost had become as natural as breathing. What still captured her attention, however, were the 4 juvenile Crithians currently wrestling over a thermal blanket in Habitat Bay 3. Territorial dispute in progress, announced Area, the station's AI with what Lena swore was amusement in her synthetic voice. Lena pressed her palm against the observation window, watching the cubs tumble across the padded floor. Each was roughly the size of a small bear, covered in iridescent scales that shifted from deep purple to crimson depending on their emotional state. Right now they blazed bright orange, the color of irritation and competition. The largest cub, whom Lena had nicknamed Duchess, had claimed the blanket first. It was a simple thing, really, just standard-issue thermal fabric designed to retain heat. But to the Crithians, who came from a world where resources meant survival and sharing meant weakness, that blanket represented dominance. Ravi, the smallest of the 4, circled the pile of wrestling siblings with cautious steps. His scales flickered between orange and a nervous yellow-green. Lena had grown fond of Ravi over the past months. While his siblings fought and postured, he observed. While they roared and snapped, he learned. The Crithian collective had sent these cubs to Station Kepler 442 as part of the Galactic Council's cultural exchange program, a diplomatic gesture wrapped in scales and teeth. The adult Crithians were apex predators, feared throughout the known systems for their combat prowess and territorial nature. Cubs, the collective explained, needed to be raised in controlled aggression to become proper warriors. Lena had other ideas. Area. Lower the habitat temperature by 3 degrees, she said, pulling on her environmental suit. Advisory. Protocol suggests allowing natural behavioral expression among. I know what protocol suggests. Lower the temperature. Within minutes, Lena entered the habitat. The cubs immediately stopped their squabbling, turning toward her with heads lowered. Not in submission, but in assessment. Predator eyes tracked her every movement. Easy, Lena said softly, kneeling down to their level. Humans had learned long ago that making yourself small reduced perceived threat. I'm not here to take anything from you, Duchess growled, a sound like grinding stone. Her scales flashed territorial red, but Lena reached into her supply pack and pulled out not 1, but 5 thermal blankets. She laid them out across the habitat floor, spreading them evenly. The cubs watched, confusion rippling across their chromatic scales in waves of color Lena had never seen before. You see, Lena explained, knowing they couldn't understand her words but hoping they might understand her tone. Where I come from, we learned something important. There's a difference between scarcity and abundance. Your people think competition makes you strong, and maybe it does. But cooperation, that makes you unstoppable. Ravi was the first to approach. He sniffed one of the blankets, then looked up at Lena with eyes that held surprising intelligence. Slowly, carefully, he dragged one blanket toward the corner and settled onto it, his scales gradually shifting to a contented blue. The other cubs watched. Duchess approached next, still wary, still dominant. She took the blanket nearest to Lena, maintaining eye contact the entire time, a challenge and an acceptance simultaneously. One by one, the remaining cubs claimed their blankets. The habitat fell quiet except for the soft sounds of breathing and the rustle of thermal fabric. Lena stood to leave, satisfied with her small intervention, when she felt something tug at her suit. Ravi had grabbed the edge of her pant leg with his foreclaw, sharp enough to tear through steel yet gentle as a whisper. His scales had shifted to a warm amber color Lena had never seen in the species database. What is it, little one? Ravi pulled his blanket toward the center of the habitat. Then with deliberate slowness he looked at his siblings. One by one they understood. Duchess huffed, a sound that might have been a laugh or a challenge, and dragged her blanket to join Ravi's. The others followed. Within minutes, all 5 blankets formed a nest in the center of the habitat. The cubs arranged themselves in a pile, largest to smallest, with Ravi tucked in the middle. Their scales synchronized into a deep, peaceful purple, the color of family. Lena's throat tightened. Arya, are you recording this? Affirmative. This behavior is unprecedented in Crithian development. The collective should find this data fascinating. The cubs who moments ago had been fighting with the instincts of born predators now groomed each other with careful claws. Duchess wrapped her tail protectively around Ravi. The smallest cub, who would have been abandoned in the wild for his size, purred contentedly in the center of his chosen family. That's the thing about humans, Lena whispered, more to herself than to Arya. We don't just survive. We don't just compete. We figured out that the strongest packs are the ones that protect their weakest members. That sharing doesn't make you vulnerable. It makes you part of something bigger than yourself. She placed her hand against the observation window again as she left the habitat. The cubs remained in their pile, 4 predators and 1 human blanket philosophy, creating something new. Something that hadn't existed before humans started asking dangerous questions like, what if, and why not? Outside the habitat, the stars stretched endlessly, millions of worlds, thousands of species, countless ways of being. But here on Station Kepler 442, a human caretaker had done what humans did best. She'd looked at the way things were and imagined how they could be better. The predator cubs had growled over the blanket. And then, with just a little nudge toward possibility, they'd snuggled up together under it anyway.